I want to congratulate everybody for making it through another month. We had our first meeting about a month ago and realized that the need and to share what you're learning, thinking, feeling about virtual events as we've all been forced into what I call the no contact economy. And if you want to read my article this week, it's on Techonomy, and it is called the Do Not Touch Economy and why anything that involves do not touching is thriving. I am amazed at how quickly the bar is rising for these events. That each time I go to one, there are less mishaps, shall I say, less like embarrassing moments, not so many people licking their wounds after the event. So clearly, we are getting quite adept at this. And that is another thing that tells me it's not going away. It's here to stay. And even when we go back to meeting virtually, which is you subscribe to my newsletter, I do believe the earliest we'll do that is fall of 2021. And when we do, there will be a virtual component because it is just easier than running around like a banshee to every event the way we used to. So this group was formed to kind of look at events in all their glory, good, bad, ugly, what's happening on the scene. There's a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and best way to do that is go to our website, which I'll put up at the end, or I'll put in the chat window, called solvingfortech.com. Click on virtual events group. You'll see a list of the 300 virtual platforms there are now that we're starting to flesh out into reviews, some best practices, some upcoming events, and really want to make it a community that's vibrant for everybody in this new event space. Couple of shout outs, and I don't know if they're in the room or not, but just this week alone, Mary Cousin did a fabulous event for ChiTAG, which is the Chicago Toy and Game event, and went on for 5 days with various parts and was really wonderful. Since our last meeting, when Jim Louderback spoke, Jim relaunched VidCon and pivoted from having a 50,000 person in-person event to a daily happening event for influencers. Let's see who else. Dawn Pratt, who may or may not be on the call, launched Tech Up for Women virtual edition this week and did a fabulous day of women in technology talking. David Kirkpatrick his event is with Techonomy is in December, and it's always a treat to be there. I'll be interviewing Marty Cooper, the father of the cell phone, for that. Andrew Morris from the FinTech Agenda should be on the call. Andrew did an amazing job of actually handling multi-session events and is going to talk about that with us in January. Marnie Edelhart has a company called Momentum Events that is actually fluent in all platforms and picking the right one for the right customers. I think Jeff Joseph is on the phone, and I welcome him and his event. And so, and probably last, not least, is Alfred Poor, my tech guru in all of this, who I call whenever everything doesn't work, and Martin Porter, who is the spiritual advisor for the group. So with no further ado, the basic setup for these groups are, and in December we have a surprise because it's a Christmas party hosted on Shindig. We'll tell you about it at the end. But the basic format is you'll hear from 2 speakers in our group about how to really start to think about your virtual events. If you have things you want to talk about in upcoming events, please let me know. And we are actually booked out through March now with kind of exciting programs. But the first thing I want to do is introduce, first I want to introduce, is Steve Gottlieb here? Steve?
Yes.
Give us a hint about what you're doing in December with Shindig on our veg group.
Hi, so excited to be able to enable your party. I'm actually not sure what music you have planned and what other, oh, here we go. Hello?
Yes, you're there.
Okay, so I'm not sure, Robin, what music you have planned or what other festivities, but we're proud that you've allowed us to help you throw a holiday party with appropriate accoutrements. And of course, our technology is unique in that it will allow everyone to, at one click, kind of be in private chats. And we recently hosted an event that was in the Wall Street Journal for ambassadors. And we had Representative Clyburn meet with ambassadors yesterday. We have Mary J. Blige on the platform tonight. And we're doing the real essence of Shindig is enabling that people to mingle and network and be social in self-assembled private groups while they're also engaged in a program. So we're really
Yeah.
honored that you guys are chosen us to help you with your holiday festivities.
So much fun. Don't, if you count on me for the playlist, we would be doing like Joni Mitchell or something. So we'll convene about that offline. But thanks. And then I think now we're going to jump over to Marianne, who's going to speak for about 10 minutes. I've known Marianne for a long time, watched her do fabulous events for the banking industry where we're not even allowed to say their names, as well as the UN. And really, her message is all about repurposing content and thinking smart about all this work that you're doing. And Marianne, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Robin, so much. And thank you for the opportunity to share this case study with you. This came out of a conversation, a phone call that we had with Martin about what you can do now in the digital space and to think a little differently about your events and your trade shows. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Marianne Pierce. I'm the founder and CEO of MAP Digital. This is my team. We used to produce very, very large digital events in ballrooms. Now we're doing it all from our kitchen tables all over the country. So we like to call ourselves that we're a team of very seasoned professionals who artfully engineer large scale digital events. And we built our Meta Meetings platform over the last 20 years with our banking clients to run the content in every digital aspect of their show. So what we're going to talk about today is repurposing conference content to build audience. So this is a case study that we did a pro bono, but basically a social good that we were allowed to do anything we wanted to. So we can go to the next slide. Thanks, Joe. So we like to say digital content is a gift that keeps on giving. It's a mapism. We'll get a few of them, but that one we actually put into print. And we've been, once again, we've been in the digital space for over almost 25 years. I did my first webcast in 1996. So this is an old time boogie for us. We've done hundreds of webcasting conferences and tens of thousands of webcasts. And these are the two key insights that is germane to this presentation, is that we found digital content is golden, meaning we would watch like where the on-demands went, how many people came back to engage in it, did they share it, did they download the slides? And it kind of took on, I have a background in direct marketing. That data had some alchemy that was showing me a footprint of audience and then where they shared it to. So the digital space is almost a new horizon that we're at least, digital argonauts or whatever you want to call it in it, but there's so much more potential. So I just wanted to get into that. And then of course, since every click is measured, data is your currency. So it helps realize ROI, relevance, and new revenue streams, but it also, informs you of your customer's journey, and then how you can work with your sponsors and your exhibitors and all of that, of course, with privacy being protected. So let's get into the case study. The next slide, please. I was asked to join a group of very brilliant people who go to Davos, ministers of companies and impact investors, UN people, to create something that's called the Equality Moonshot. And our basis is to basically promote women and girls to enter STEM to solve two of the SDGs, renewable and agriculture, because based on the Club of Rome, which is 100 of the top scientists worldwide who did the meta-analysis, that if we look at these two SDGs, we'll achieve sustainability faster, and we need more women, and we need the cognitive structures, more cognitive diversity in which to get to sustainability faster. The other part of the Equality Moonshot is that we really want to encourage women to enter these businesses, own these platforms. So ideally, they can get 30% of the $25 trillion that are going to be spent in the next 20 years. So it was multi-purpose, and we decided that we were working with this a conference that was happening at the UN, the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And the woman in orange there is Chantaline Carpentier. She's the head of UNCTAD, which is Trade and Development responsible at the UN for the SDGs. And we engineered like 3 sessions. So we got, some of our friends from Women's Sphere, from the UN. There's DJ Martin from ASTIA. And then I think that's Dr. Mariana from the Club of Rome. So we were engineering our content, knowing we were going to capture everything. And then we are going to take off videos, snippets in social media, and trying to use that thought leadership in which to create a larger conversation that women and girls, especially in emerging markets, that you should be entering STEM, and we're here to support you. And if you don't see it, you can't be it. So instead of having a chat session with 500 people at the UN, we wanted to extend that content and want to see where it would go and see what resonated. So you can go to the next slide, please. So while we were doing this, and I'm the technologist on it, so I'm not the woman who goes to Davos or any of this, but I'm the mad scientist in the back. I wouldn't call myself a scientist. Mad is appropriate. But anyway, there we go. The Wharton School of Business was following what we were doing because, one of our members teaches at Wharton. And they wanted to know about an online platform for the aggregation of content about the SDGs. Now, the SDGs have a very limited knowledge in the United States. What does SDGs mean? Sustainable Development Goal. How can we make this much more disseminate the information, and how can you do it in steps and create a community around being very purposeful this? So they primarily, the first part of the investigation was looking at our MetaMeetings platform to see if it was the best platform in which to do this. So that was great. I mean, that was sort of critical on business analysis that I didn't have to pay for. We came very, very up at the top. It was wonderful. But here's some of the insights they got from looking, and this is the graduate students just about to get their MBA got. These are some of when you say the content users, this is what your audience is looking for: open and free access, relevant content. We're talking about engineering and curating content in a little bit. Ease of navigable content, and absorbed various types, and they want to be engaged. And then this is what the actual content producers are looking for on these platforms. So these are some things to look at as you are planning your digital virtual experience. So we can go to the next slide. We'll go back to the Equality Moonshot. So we took these snippets, and if you the slide we had previously with the talking heads, and we sent these videos out. Now we didn't know what we were doing. We had no budget, and we were just using interns from the UN and mine, and just saying, let's just like send it out and tag it, and just like throwing spaghetti on a refrigerator and seeing what sticks. Well, we had that one moment that it stuck, and we literally like opened our eyes. Annalisa from Women's Sphere gave a 1-minute, beautifully empathetic pitch on what the Equality Moonshot is. We put it on Facebook and tagged her. 2 days later, we looked at the Facebook and we had 2,000 clicks on that video. We're like, what happened here? We didn't buy anything. We didn't do any amplification. So then we start like thinking and talking and spoke with Annalisa. She goes, oh yeah, I got like 100,000 people who follow me. It's like, wow, speakers become a resource. So this Watson analytics that you see here is something that we had done 2 years ago for another event called InspireFest, which is, again, women and girls in STEM. And you see that big pyramid right there. Well, that's a speaker. Her name is Kelly Hoey, and she is massive. So whenever she tweeted something or we took a snippet of her video, we were trending. So she was taking the brand of InspireFest or Equality Moonshot in Annalisa's case. So this whole thing of the power of the speakers network by amplifying their thought leadership from their conference. There's a lot to go on there. So that's sort of like you help them make, they come to your conference, but they help you make your brand by pulling their constituents or their followers with them. So we can go to the next slide. Please, Joel. So Wharton, when they saw this before they finished, before they graduated, they said, we're going to survey all the speakers from that, like 200 people that were at the UN and a couple of other people. They're really interested, like speakers, like, are they an underutilized resource when it comes to the events industry? Can they really be used as brand ambassadors? So first of all, they asked them, what's your motivation to go to be a speaker beyond your 20 minutes on stage? Okay. It's networking. It's sharing knowledge. Okay. Financial award. I don't remember the last time I got paid and, got a ticket in a hotel room. Gain credibility, building a better world. And then they asked them, what's your likelihood that you will want to share your thought leadership with others, in 83%. So I think speakers are very interested in the conferences helping to make their brand and then hitchhike, and using their constituents in which to build a conference brand. And then also to create in that way more audience, more people who will attend. Obviously now the people can attend without traveling, so that could be a very interesting proposition. So if you go to the next slide, I want to tell you some of the things. Just advance it, please. Yeah, thank you. This was not easy to do. I mean, there's no machine learning involved. Our platform, gathered all the content, all the videos were there. It was very good housekeeping that way. But we had to process these snippets. And a couple of things is like maybe the 3 phases of content. You have to curate it. You have to have really good production values, and then the amplification. The curation, almost we went backwards with my team of people in the Quality Moonshot. Let's really curate what we're going to say. Let's just not wing it. I want those come to mama moments that I know that I'm going to cut and then send off. This is really being very purposeful. And I think in this very cold medium that we have right now, we might have to do a better job of curating content because we don't have all the, the nonverbal and all the stagecraft. So yeah, let's see. Might be good practice just for virtual platforms in general. You have to have good production values, good sound, and all that good stuff, good bandwidth. So that has to happen. But actually, people who are curating the content and are producing the content aren't always the same people, because as Robin and I know, that once you go through these productions, you are exhausted, so the last thing you want to think about is editing snippets. Then you get your amplifiers, and these are your storytellers, your journalists. These are people who are monitoring, floating over the process, seeing what the curation's happening, seeing what the engineering is. And what we did at the UN, we just had big legal pads and just say, mark down the time code when somebody said something compelling. And then we went back and we edited it. So we try to put it into machine learning in Watson. And it was hilarious what came back, but one of these days we will be able to do it. So next slide is, will be my concluding slide. This is kind of this grand wild vision, is that, content fuels, the digital campfires in the global village. And it's really a stretch of McLuhan. But I think that we're in this, in the events industry, we're really in these narrow networks. The same people keep coming to the conferences and all that good stuff. Where opportunity really comes in a broad, diverse sphere. So what agent do you have in which to enrich that, especially in networking? You have content. So it could be a way of saying, I got 100 people that are coming to my conference, but I'd like to have 400. How can I reach them? Why don't you see if that byproduct you have now in virtual can help you with some craft and really get a digital marketing, content marketing agency. Don't do it like we did it, but we did have a couple of ahas, and it was really worth it. So I'm Marianne Pierce from Map Digital. Thank you very much. And any questions, comments, love to entertain them. I don't know if we're going to have questions now, Robin, or we're going to wait.
I think we're going to do them in the breakout room because Ben
Right.
Hinton, our next speaker, I know I already begged and borrowed his time, but let me give you two thoughts really quickly. One of the gems there is so easy, and that is, we all depend on Zoom recording feature. Just mark down what they said while you're going along. You will save yourself so much time of transcribing and remembering when they said what. That's one. Two is they're starting to codify this in technology, and a great company to look at is Streambed, that's using blockchain to track a snippet of existing content through its life cycle. So you've seen this thing on CNN, you've cut it up and chopped it, and it goes ahead and can trace who's used it, in what audiences, for how long, because those are the kinds of metrics that we're going to want. So with that said, and that gives us some things to talk about in the breakout sessions, I want to introduce Ben, because poor Ben, I stalked him. Ben is the founder of Slack. And as you probably know, Slack is...
Oh, I wish I were the founder
I
of Slack.
stalked you on Slack.
One day I will build a business as big as Slack. Yes.
And I found him to just be this font of information, mostly about integration, because he works with everybody to create fabulous marketing campaigns. And so when I called him, and we haven't seen each other physically yet, so I said to him, what do you want to talk about? He goes, making it so easy that your mother could understand it. I said, I am your mother. So now with that, Ben, I'm putting it on you. Thank you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hey, everyone. Thanks for spending time. Nice to meet you. I'm Ben. I'm the CEO of Splash. And exactly as Robin said, I actually, my mom has been having a hard time figuring out what I do. And so I'm making a video for her. And Robin said, hey, that's a cool way to frame up our conversation here. So, I guess what I would throw out there in the comment about being for my mom, it's really hard to understand what's happening nowadays in the virtual event tech space. And that's what I've been trying to unpack. And, if you're anything like me, you're seeing a different piece of virtual event tech pop up every single week and trying to pull together all of your different technology to accomplish your goals. And so what I've been thinking about is what's the easiest way to explain the different types of event tech. And so I put together a quick framework, and I'm going to walk you through it and do my best to explain the world through my lens, through the world of the event tech landscape through my lens. So I hope this is helpful, and please stop me if I'm really working on this truly for my mom, but also I'm hoping to make a YouTube video out of it because I think it's a cool way to frame up the world. So check this out. I'm going to dive right into a quick presentation. Here we go. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen. So this is what my company does. My company is Splash, and we do this online. We handle promotion, registration, guest list management, and check-in. And before the pandemic and now, what our technology does and did is the same. Our goal is to help you find the right people, to send them the communications that they need, and get them to RSVP or buy tickets to your event, manage all that information, and then check into the event. So I'm sure if you've used any registration systems, you'll be familiar with that feature set. And that's really what we work on. Now, what makes or made and continues to make us special is our connectors. We work with some of the top brands in the world at Splash. So our top 3 customers would be Facebook, Salesforce, and Amazon. So you can imagine they are, they find it to be very important to integrate all of their registration systems, with their CRM. And what CRM, of course, for those who are not uninitiated, is the database of all of the different customers that you are trying to attract. So your customer relationship management system. So we integrate deeply with those and we pull out the most important people and help them promote to them. Then, and this is more a newer evolution of what we're doing, we have taken a stand and said, hey, we're going to do what we do really well, which is the dark stuff in purple. And then we are going to integrate with the rest of the virtual event tech stack. So as I'll talk about, I'm going to unpack for you all of the different technology that we integrate with. But what we basically allow you to do is host a great event with the tools that you already have. And so let's talk about some of those tools and what has been popping up in the world. So during a virtual event, I should say, many of us think of it as like, all right, that's just Zoom, right? But sometimes, anyone who has played with any of the other technology, I would break down the technology that is evolving into basically 4 different categories. So streaming, presentation, engagement, and what I'm calling multi-format. So let's walk through each of those. So let's start with streaming, and forgive the jumps. I'm still working on my slides here. So do you want to stream to send your message across the internet? Well, if so, you need streaming technology. And often that streaming technology is baked right into your software system, like is happening right now with Zoom, excuse me. But what you might not have known is that there are a lot of customization offerings, a lot of quality, latency. There's lots of ways to build different streaming experiences. And the companies on the left over here are focused 100% on building streaming technology. Now, I'd argue that for most of the people on this call, they won't be that interesting unless you're building your own system. If you're building your own system, application, or website, then those would be interesting. You can build right on top of Jitsi or Twilio, any of these companies on the left. But helpful to know that Zoom built their own version of this. And a good question you might want to ask when you're talking to any kind of system is, did you build your own streaming system? Another way to say that in technical speak is, did you roll your own codecs? I just learned that. And so if someone has done that, that would imply that they actually have built their application in a way that's closer to the stream. So it's actually kind of more integrated. But it's just an interesting thing to understand. Okay, let's move on to presentation software. Now, you're going to see Zoom evolve a lot in the next couple of years in this space, presentation software. Now, previously, if you wanted to level up your presentation, so when I say that, I mean things like lower thirds or custom swipes, branded graphics, any of the things that you might have seen on the nightly news or a sports game, those are actually being controlled by something called OBS, Open Broadcaster Software. And you need a full team in the booth triggering all of those different functions, all those different graphics. Well, nowadays, you're seeing a lot of companies like the ones on the left who are focused on building that right into your virtual event software. And so you're going to see this be an area of innovation, pulling different graphics onto the screen, making it look more compelling, leveling up your keynotes. So I'll call that presentation software. Oh, excuse me. You're going to forgive me one sec. I forgot one slide and I don't want to forget it. 2 secs here. Boop. Streaming presentation. Oh no. Okay. Well, you're just going to forgive me, and this is, we're doing it live here. So next I'm going to talk a bit about engagement software, and it will be important despite the fact that I omitted that slide. You know what? I'll just get into it. Engagement would be the next one, and you can imagine if that engagement lit up with yellow. Engagement software is things like Slido, SurveyMonkey, Slack. The goal of engagement software is to make the invisible audience visible, right? To get people engaged right from the keyboard. And you're going to see all sorts of those pieces of software be built right into Zoom. So Zoom right now has launched something called Zaps, Zoom apps, which are allowing third-party software developers like Slido, like SurveyMonkey, like Slack to build engagement software right into their app. But you're going to see all sorts of, we'll talk about it in a sec, different types of software just incorporate engagement software into what they're building. And then lastly, and I'm calling this, I've kind of renamed this multi-format. So multi-format, let's take a quick step back. In the real world, most of the value and certainly most of the conversations that you have in an event happen in the hallways or happen in the meetings, right? Happen at the lunch table. So multi-format are all the different pieces of software that are trying to recreate that experience, so to recreate the meeting, to allow you to move and navigate around. And some are getting as sophisticated as involving audio technology and making the volume turn up or down depending on where your avatar moves around the space. So multi-format is the idea, we would know it in the Zoom land as breakout rooms, but you're actually seeing a lot of different pieces of software like meeting software, collaboration software, whiteboarding software, who are trying to solve specifically for encouraging people to do different types of formats in conjunction with their events. Now, the pieces of software that I've just mentioned, so the streaming ones, presentation ones, engagement ones, and multi-format ones, everything on the left so far, I would call those standalone pieces of software. Those are software that do not combine many things, but you can plug into your systems. right? So you would use that in conjunction with, say, a Zoom. So you might use Miro, which is a whiteboarding software, in conjunction with Zoom. So let's take a quick step back and talk a bit about some of the applications that are combining these types of features right into their application layer. So you're probably already familiar with many of these social streaming platforms, but you might not be using their live functionality. So Instagram Live, Vimeo Live Stream, LinkedIn Live. Now, of course, they're incorporating both streaming and engagement software. And the real value add of these types of software is their distribution channel, that they have the audiences built right into the software. And so this is a great opportunity to expand your reach if you're interested in doing that for your event, if it's not a private event, for instance. Next, of course, we're all familiar with these. When COVID started, this was the place where we saw most of the events happen, because this is the software that most organizations have access to. And they're backed by some really big names, right? If you look at here, we're seeing everything from Zoom, Microsoft, Cisco, Adobe, Google, Amazon. These are the companies that are actually backing meeting software. And as you can imagine, there is a race right now to capture the hearts and minds of the enterprise. I would say that if I were making a bet, and I am, I am betting that this software is going to, within about a year, be sufficient for nearly every event type, especially if or when combined with some of the software plugins that I just described. So because they're backed by such big technology businesses and there's so much at stake, I think that they will be layering on the right technology, the right functionality in the next couple of years. So that's something that I'm focused on. But especially right now, if you are interested in the full thing, a whole kit and caboodle, there are right now, I'll call this one the Gold Rush conferencing software that is already available, before quarantine, but has really seen an influx of capital and focus in the last couple months. And so conferencing software tries its best to incorporate all of these different things. They do streaming, presentation, engagement, and multi-format. They allow you to do sessions, host breakout meetings, network sometimes. Now, some of these are great. I would take a screenshot of these. There's some great ones. I've really been enjoying Remo. Welcome, I would say, is advanced in their presentation software. Shindig is one of the best I've seen for multi-format. Hopin has built their own streaming technology, so it's quite simple. Predella is very good for collaboration and engagement. So you can tell that each of these has their own point of view, their own perspective. None are complete at this stage in my mind, and some do more than you need. But they allow you to have a closed loop end-to-end experience, and they try to represent what it's like to experience the real world. So that is how I guess what I'd offer to you. So this is what we do, as I mentioned, is we enable you to host these events with the tools you already have. One thing that is still very true, as you saw by the way I framed it, is that nobody is doing reg well within that space. Nobody's connecting to the rest of your CRM systems well within that space. And no one's doing a great job promoting events within that space. And so, we still see that as a huge area of focus and opportunity. Because so much is happening, and I'll kind of jump back to this slide so you can see, because so much is happening around this circle, especially on the left-hand side, as a technologist in this space, I'm making a bet that, as I said, either the big players are going to win or nobody's going to win. And people are going to want to plug and play whatever software best suits their need. And so I'm really focused on continuing to build what we're best at, which is everything pre-event and post-event. So, I recognize, I guess what I'd leave you with, and I'll jump back on here, is that I'm sure that many of you, when I've given this presentation before, one of the first thing that comes up is, why is it still so hard? Why is it still so, why are we still having such a hard time doing virtual events? I guess I just leave you by saying, if you remember in if anyone's heard of the Uncanny Valley. Has anyone heard of the Uncanny Valley? It's a great concept. It's in animation. There was kind of Mickey Mouse, right? And then we got into like Toy Story. And it was really Toy Story, if you remember, that it was right in the beginning of when it started to look like CGI, a computer graphic interface, where very soon we would actually start to really look like human beings, right? You could actually represent them with drawings. But if anyone saw the movie I, Robot, I don't know if you remember that movie, there was a time period where it just looked eerie. And the word we call it the uncanny valley, meaning that technology was just not quite there. It wasn't Mickey Mouse, and it wasn't, Avatar. It was the Polar Express. It was I, Robot, if you know those movies. And I would argue that where we sit today is the uncanny valley of virtual event tech. It's not quite there yet. It's close, but it's still it looks a little too I, Robot. And I would expect that we're about 6 months away, a year away from having some technology that really does start to feel like a real event. But who knows?
Ben, my homework is to, like your mother, I will put these into neat columns and share them with the audience. You just told us so much. I'd like to make it into a Chinese menu. And I don't use the Uncanny Valley, but I use the when word processors showed up and all of a sudden everybody was a desktop publisher expert and you got a bunch of stuff that looked like a ransom note every day in your mailbox. Same thing. That's kind of where we're at in events. And so I can't thank Ben and Marianne enough for their time and their knowledge. And if you watch Ben's Zoomtopia video that he did, you'll learn more about what happened in the meeting than Eric Yuan could have told you. But what we're going to do now, and if you can stick around, it would be great. We're going to jump into breakout rooms. We've pre-assigned you because we're terrified not to. And I'm just going to shoot you all into a room for 10 minutes, introduce yourselves, actually more like 8 minutes, have a chat, come back, let us know what you discovered, and then we'll say happy Friday. So off you go, I think.
Yeah, we're in breakouts. I think there's Cheryl and there's David.
I got to go back. I have a feeling I've left a lot of other people.
You leave no one behind.
Leave no one
Robin.
behind. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Editorial director of a business-to-business group, and just put on a meeting that Robin was a speaker at. Actually, she's worked with us before in the vision.
With the content.
What do you mean activate them? Talk to them, deal with them?
To utilize them as brand ambassadors and to help them sell your content and sell your events. And obviously after the event, you can pull their highlights and their snippets, as you called it. But beforehand is when we could generate more potentially revenue and potentially more, we used to call them butts in the seats. Obviously we sent out, little graphics that they can put in LinkedIn or whatever in their link. But are you having any success with that before pre-event?
Yeah, there's a couple of softwares that are out there. One called Snowball that's based out of Montreal that is really about how the whole promoting your speakers and their thought leadership beforehand. They'll even videotape now it's so cheap, a little snippet that's just about your conference, oh, please join me at Martin's, so you could have it that way.
I learned a lot in the last 40 minutes because we're trying to navigate the landscape and, with CES going virtual this year, how does that play out? I've done a couple virtual events currently and it didn't go so great. So
what happened?
They just had us in weird rooms and they just had people just click into you or click on logos and
have them do a Zoom hi, come and join me, blah, 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 or take something else. You have to generate the content. And many of them be very, very thrilled to do it because I think we saw from the Wharton, they want to build their brand too, and they want to network. And many of the speakers from the deeper the research, they want to do workshops and they want to.
So it's been interesting.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. And how about you, John? Are you an event person?
No, I have to do my disclaimer. I guess I am sort of the event person. I'm right now in the Monterey Convention Center because we're setting up for virtual city council meetings. But my disclaimer is I was education client number 3 for Zoom. And
Wow.
my son is the CTO. So nothing that I say represents Zoom, but he did come down during the pandemic and has been living in our basement. So he may be CTO of Zoom in a big company, but he's still living in his parents' basement. But you may
Your
have
son is
heard
the
of,
CTO of Zoom?
yes, my son is the CTO of Zoom.
Wow.
The reason that we're here at the convention center is I think a number of you've heard about Tony Robbins, who did a big event on Zoom. And they used this very incredible stage that was done by a Canadian firm. And we're probably going to set up one of those studios at the convention center. So we think we're never going back to traditional meetings, and that there will be some sort of hybriding. But so the convention center here is working on figuring out how to do alternatives. So I'm a retired university professor. I did my first video conference in 1977 from the Northwestern Medical School to a ship halfway to Hawaii using RCA Globesat. So this, you guys are late coming into this video conferencing biz. But anyway, but it's been fun to hear that. And so Ben, love to chat with you. I'm just John at csumb.edu, or check out Brendan Idelson. He's my son. I'm sure he would be interested in what you're doing.
That's
yes.
a huge idea, a huge deal that he's the CTO of Zoom. I mean, that's insanity.
Right, John, I forgot to mention, yes, Brendan is the guy. Yeah.
Crazy.
Keep him busy.
Wow.
So John, I think Brendan wants to come on one of these also, right?
If I could get him to do it, he had to do tech support for me today. Arrow, couldn't get Zoom to do something, and I had to pry him out of the office.
Well,
But
at CES,
whether Zoom,
we just
yeah,
signed
whether
up,
he's-
and we signed up Ann Kean from Zoom to speak.
yeah, and
because
the education
she's
person.
leading the education front. And Ben, I think you know how hard they're working on making Zoom classrooms work.
Well, not only Zoom classrooms, but I think what Ben pointed out was really, I think, the important takeaway is Zoom apps. So you really don't need a Zoom for classroom. You just need Zoom, and you load the various apps that you need, whether it be an assessment app, whether it be a portfolio, whether it be even drill and practice. So I don't think we felt the impact of how important the video communication is in this, but how important then those add-ons are. And I think the list you had, Ben, of those people, what people are integrating it, I think those are going to become Zaps within Zoom. And it's a menu, a Chinese menu. For this one, we want to be able to do polling. For this one, we want to be able to do random pairing.
Yeah, Zaps is a big idea. Ben, watch Ben's video. He thinks it's a big idea too. But
I really do.
The guy that did Blackboard, Michael Chausen, is now doing Zoom Classroom with all the features that
Michael Chausen is doing that, but another person, Ali Jafari, who was the person who created OnCourse, which became Sakai, and then Angel, has a product called the CN, and he's going full force in doing Zaps using his CN platform, which is a international sort of faced-in, LinkedIn look. I mean, I think it's interesting. Who could have anticipated this? The pandemic, if there's anything that came out of it, is the ability to have events where normally you were restricted to who could afford to go there. I think the greatest strength here is the equity issue, that people, all they have to do is have an internet connection. We have the digital divide, but it's so interesting. My son, who came down for a dental appointment when the pandemic hit, and he didn't leave because he was working 24-hour days. So we were feeding him meals and doing room service in his laundry. Now he's not working so hard, but he's got so used to us taking care of him, he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
But we are getting Zoom fatigue, but it's primarily because we aren't doing very well. Ben, you did a wonderful job. You got a good background. You got good audio. I normally would have better background in audio, but I'm,
Right.
here in the damn convention center.
Well, Marge,
But-
Marge just
Yeah.
did a great Vision Monday. Why don't you talk about how that went?
Well, again, we were so paranoid about not having the in-house control to worry about it being live streamed that we just ended up producing 4 2-hour broadcasts with 25 speakers and stitched it together with the group that's used to putting on healthcare education conferences. So they didn't know from sexy, really. When you have a doctor showing slides and giving a talk, it's not exactly dynamic. But we fed them, I'm the content person, we fed them ideas and then they had to execute for us. But I think my particular company's challenge is, people are looking for ROI as they go. So I'm not a tech head. I mean, knowing the capabilities of what's out there is fascinating to me, but we have to justify what we're doing for people paying to come to a conference or a sponsor seeing value out of it when it used to be incredibly valuable for it to be real life. And now with internet and virtual, maybe the value isn't exactly the same. So you're kind of learning as you go, but have to justify what you're doing as you go. And that's new for us. But we had a great, we had everyone from Walmart to Teladoc to our friend Robin here, and amazing speakers and leaders talking about the pandemic and healthcare implications. Because healthcare has been so.
The volume of people who come to see their booth, but also what they can learn from that in the data we give them. So yeah, that the analytics is the big thing. It's not flashy, doesn't give you those big, artificial convention hall where you can walk around and, go into meeting rooms and this and that. We figured that at least for our audience, they'd be less impressed with the bells and whistles and more impressed by actually being able to get content and access and engage with the exhibitors. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hi there, I popped in.
hey, Robin.
Robin.
So the one you all have to look at, it's called experiencewelcome.com. Alfred, we talked about it. I'm
Yeah.
so impressed with this thing because it's run, Josh, you'd love it. It's run like TV. You can have different shots and you can have slides over your head, to the side of your head. You can have photo booths and social moments with people.
Yep.
It's kind of
Have you seen a demo of it yet?
Monday.
Okay.
I signed up.
Because the website has a lot of sizzle and not much steak. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I'm really curious to find out what it turns out to be.
So you have to sign up and
Yeah.
prove that you're worthy. So fake it on how big your budget is for events this year. And they call you right back to do a demo,
Oh, good. Okay.
which is one of the reasons I want to do this. So people quit doing that and they can just come like people like Ben can just come in and it's so funny. He's so good. He talked about everything but his own product.
He did. Well, he did. No, he talked about it first. He laid that down first, but he showed how it fits into the whole ecosystem and how he sees it, all those interactions between the platforms shaping
My
up. in
sun
the
is
future.
going down faster than I keep moving.
Chases you.
Following the sun. I'm gonna throw us all out of our rooms now. And we're
What's the
gonna
name of that software? I'm sorry that you mentioned. The one.
Welcome.
welcome.
Yeah,
But it's
it's
called-
on the list on the website.
Wow.
Experience welcome.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm sending everybody back, I think. Magic.
I'm back.
Okay. Did I send?
Now here comes everybody else. Maybe.
Oh, do I have to do it room by room? No, that couldn't happen. No, 43
No,
seconds.
you don't. Yeah, you're good, Robin. I just left manual.
Shoot me, right.
All good.
Okay, well, even the people, your room is here, but where are the other people? Give them, I think it closes in like 40 seconds or something, 22.
Yes.
Fascinating.
So we didn't get very deep, but I think that the takeaway is people are fascinated with what the alternatives are, because as blind men and the elephant, we each have our little bit of experience, but we don't see a way. We don't know what else is out there in the world.
No, exactly. And I think the others are rejoining us now too. And I want to be mindful of people's time, but let me just make sure I did this all right.
Disengage us.
I'll know everybody's back when Ben's people get back into the room. Anybody from Ben's room back here? Share.
I'm from Ben's room.
Yep.
Here.
There
Yeah,
we
we're
go.
here.
We all made it. It's like
Yay.
teleporting. But if anybody wants to say anything about what went on in their room, I'm all ears, and we can do that for about a minute, and then I'll wind up with a December re-invite. Anybody have some epiphany in their room they want to share?
I'll just repeat the summary that I just gave a second ago, but that is, I think we didn't get very deep, but what came out was, I think people have an urge to learn about what is out there, what's available, because we all have experienced our own experiences with limited number of platforms, but we don't know how that fits into the broader universe of what's available.
I couldn't agree more. And it's the reason, because this is what everybody talked about. It's the reason I wanted to do this, because there's no sense in sitting alone in your room when you can all suffer together, when you can all learn together. And it's a huge opportunity. So I just want to thank Marianne Pierce and Ben Hinman, both fabulous experts in their fields. And if you have other things to share, let me know. These sessions, it's an opportunity to learn from each other. Our next one will be on December 20th. It will be led by Steve Gottlieb and Shindig, and is really an opportunity to do a lot more mingling and talking about the tools we use, but have a good time too. So until then, be kind to each other on Thanksgiving that isn't. Stay safe. Enjoy what little virtual Thanksgivings you can all have, and see you soon.